Booker. I'm here from Varvid TV, and I've got some great guests today. We're here today to talk about some of the things that we're hearing about at WPC, and also to talk about some of the specific products that that are being announced and are starting to ship. And so we've got a partner, we got a great vendor, we got another great vendor, we got another great vendor, and of course we got me just to kind of be in the middle.
What a job, as always.
So what I'd like to do to start with is just have everybody introduce themselves. And so I'll go ahead and start with you, Michael. If you can introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do with SBS, etc.
Yeah, sure. So Michael Eworthy, I'm a product manager on the small business server team for another week and a half.
Oh, well, we'll take it.
But I'm very sad to be leaving the SBS team, but moving over to virtualization and focusing a lot on mid-market, so not far away, and still going to have some really good things. But worked for Microsoft for quite some time, and it did the big launch of SBS 2011, which has been great.
Super. Dave?
I'm Dave Sobel, CEO of Evolve Technologies, based outside of Washington, D.C. We're a managed services provider serving the SMB market. I'm an MVP for virtualization, been working with the SBS product for a long time, so we're well plugged into this community space.
And I'll introduce myself. I'm Aaron Booker, and I am president and founder of Varvid.com. We do video for the channel, so we provide solutions for vendors as well as partners. Go ahead, Greg.
And Greg Starks, SMB Solutions Program Manager, business development team really of the ISS, which is our server division at HP. Been working with a lot of these same folks for a long time on the different servers, microserver and SBS Essentials and all that fun stuff, putting it all together for these guys.
And Peter.
Peter Sandiford, CEO of Level Platforms. We've been a Microsoft partner for many years, built our product on a remote monitoring management product for managed service providers. It's built on the .NET platform, and we've been great partners on the server group, certainly with the small business server guys, and most recently with Office 365, which is of great interest to us. I know a lot of partners, so we've been working on that for the last couple of years and have some great interest in seeing how that rolls out.
So one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, just because I think it's such a cool product, is the microserver. And I know that all of you guys are using the microserver in various ways. We are too, actually. We just put one in our office. I finished installing it just before I flew out here. Yeah. So Greg, tell me a little bit about the microserver, why the microserver happened, some of the use that are happening, and then I'd like to hear from you guys about how some of those things are happening too.
Okay. Well, you know, in the small business server space for many years, tower servers have kind of been the standard approach, right? There's different sizes and shapes, but putting a single server and first server most of the time for a new customer typically involves a tower server. Well, with the advent of Essentials and really kind of the evolution and the growth in the SMB, more and more smaller companies are forming, and it's really the biggest segment that's out there, right? So it's really an intentional step towards creating a solution for the smaller segment right below kind of the mainstream SBS environment. And so it's really a new form factor for a new kind of incremental segment that, you know, together with Microsoft, and we're trying to enable for SMB VARs. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting because I know in my case, the home server we saw is sort of the first microserver, and we started putting those in clients' locations. And actually, I worked with Peter a little bit, and we started doing some level there.
Definitely
now you're doing
pioneering going on
definitely
there.
some pioneering, some pain, but but good learning.
Good,
and with Server 2011, the SBS 11 Essentials is great. But you're doing something interesting, I think, and you and Dave are pioneering something with the microserver. I don't even know if Greg knows about it, so you should talk about that.
Well, absolutely. So with the I guess the graduation, if you like, of the I'm trying to remember the name now. I've forgotten already. No, I don't know the Microsoft product.
The home server.
The home server that's evolved, of course, into small business servers essential right now. Which is so basically the home server graduated up into our space, and the microserver has been a fantastic opportunity for that now, because our product runs on a small server ideally, and so it's a perfect fit for the small business. So you can kind of put the agentless component on there, and it just fits in it, and it really allows you to manage the entire IT environment in a small site. I'm not sure, but I think microserver can go up to, doesn't have the license limitations. It depends
the physical box, no problem.
No, but it depends which kind of license you're putting on it. But,
exactly.
But if you put the SBS Essentials on the microserver, then you've got the solution that we were looking for
Exactly.
3-4 years ago, and it's a fantastic solution because you can run the line of business applications, you can manage the whole environment, you can provide, the service provider has a way to, as kind of a way to look at everything and to manage everything and to do all of that from their office, so they can bring the costs down of computing for small businesses down to an unheard of level in a managed environment.
We've done a couple of interesting things around this as well.
So it's not just a solo server, and I think that's what you're doing.
We've found 3 major use cases for it, which I think is the first is the obvious one. Is you've got an SBS Essentials solution. You want to put something into place that's low cost, entry level, get them in with a first server. We think that's a great way of getting them in. But we've also found these 2 other use cases that we think are really interesting. The second is and I'm not sure if I've even had a chance to tell Peter what we're doing with this.
Sorry, I surprised you.
Yeah,
You're telling me about it.
We've got several customers that we've been onboarding where I don't mind saying the environment is pretty chaotic. That as we're bringing them under managed services and we're trying to organize the environment, it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah.
And you want a place of stability to work from to start managing the environment. So we've actually started rolling it in, and we, the managed services provider, will put in a microserver on site with level platforms, and we'll monitor and manage from our own point of stability around the chaos.
Well,
and we're not even charged. We bundle it into the service
because it's only $320.
Right, it's a couple of $100, and I save that on the labor of just trying to just trying to figure out what's going on there. But I know I've got a reliable server class piece of gear that I can use as the management point to start dealing with the chaos.
Exactly.
And so it gets us in. And then the third, of course, is where we actually can deploy it as completely as a service, where if the customer wants to use that resource, because in the second use case, we don't let them do anything with that. That's our box. They don't get to do anything there. But if they want to use it as part of a service solution, we can add, we can use SBS Essentials, we can do all of that and let them use it as part of a service offering rather than even having to buy anything.
So you're doing like a hardware as a service.
It's a hardware
solution,
as a service kind of.
But a complete, nice, holistic
Right, exactly.
solution.
And it's really easy to deliver that even to small customers and still be profitable, which is the key. So it's we're finding these 3 different use cases are working out really well.
What are you seeing adoption-wise on Essentials? I was watching as I was deploying my box, I was like, I got a question about something, so I found some of your videos, and I was watching some of your PowerPoints, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. But what are you seeing adoption like or interest? Because obviously the product just shipped a few days ago.
Yeah, exactly. So we GA'd last Thursday, I think.
Exactly.
So, and HP's had been in market for probably a couple of weeks just before that as well. And so we're seeing a huge amount of adoption. Our first wave of adoption was through the System Builder channel. We definitely saw this large deployment through System Builder and the VL channel, so which was really quite encouraging for this product. But we're definitely seeing some great forecasted figures for the Essentials product. As Greg was saying, some of the challenges in this space is that entry level, that first server solution, and they go, wow, it's a server's too expensive or it costs too much to run. And well, with the microserver and SBS Essentials, it's sub $1,000 as an entry level server, right? And then, as you say, it can scale up 8 gigabytes of memory, so you can definitely make it a more media server if you need it, or hook it into the cloud. So we're definitely seeing a lot of great interest in that first server space. And there's 36 million small businesses under 25 users.
And our job creators.
Exactly.
And I'm one of them.
And 27 million of them don't have servers.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Right? They
data.
have PCs.
I remember last year's
Exactly.
WPC had this fantastic data.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. The size of that market is enormous.
24 million of them have
Phenomenal.
broadband connection. They have a router in there, so they're all peer-to-peer. And they all want backup. They all want centralized services, and they all want their LOB applications either in the cloud or on premise. And the microserver platform is just a great way to say, hey, this is a really affordable solution. It's less than a laptop, right?
Yeah, and the other thing about it is these kind of same businesses, right? They don't have the back room, they don't have the closet, right? This is really, matter of fact, we've actually kind of termed it the front office server, right? And you can live out there
Absolutely.
with you.
It's so quiet.
Look, I don't want to be a
very
doorkeeper, but it's a sexy little thing, right? I mean, it's cute.
It's a super toaster.
It's got the nice little blue glowing HP logo on it, and So it looks nice, and you can stick it in the desk. I mean, we do a lot of partner visits, a lot of customer visits with partners when we do the planning of our products. And you see the tower box there next to the coffee machine. It's got stuff spilt all over it and dusty in the corner. Now this at least gives them to say, hey, this is a really nice box that I can stick on a desk, or I can stick in the front office.
Or secure easily.
Exactly.
It's the other thing is that it's easy to get secure cabinetry that is of that size. I mean, and it runs quiet. It's not generating a lot of heat, so you're not having those kinds of issues. So you can go either way.
Absolutely.
I was really surprised how snappy it was. I expected, oh my gosh, 1.3 gigahertz, but I mean, it was snappy. I mean, even using it when I was logged in as admin and I was clicking around, I mean, it was plenty snappy.
Yep.
Because I remember, just a few years ago, and part of it is, of course, it's a lightweight operating system. Not running a huge amount of services in the background when you're running Essentials, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah, a lot of the things that support, the advanced features of the SBS standard are just, they're just turned off. They're not necessary. They're not part of the core value prop that's delivered by that product. And so, yeah, they run a lighter weight box.
I have to say, from my perspective, I've always thought of SBS as the exchange piece of SBS as an annuity for partners, because frankly, exchange is a headache to manage, even in an SBS environment.
It is.
And so what's nice about this, when you're moving the mail to the cloud and the contacts and accounting to the cloud, is now you've taken, I really like your hardware as a service solution, because now you've got this nice, easy to manage thing, and you're pushing all of the management to something that's centralized.
Right.
And so you don't have these localized headaches, which we're all trying to avoid, and that's how it can be affordable for small business.
And it gives us a lighter weight offering that's a little lower support need and lower cost, so we can actually deliver something of value and still be profitable by dealing with the smaller customers. Because and you laugh because you
how many times
know
we're going to hear profitable out of you?
because I am all about profit. But the struggle that we were talking about this at lunch today. The struggle around dealing with small customers, SOHOs, small customers, is that in a managed services style engagement, they call you a couple of times and you've lost your profit, your complete profitability. And you don't want to view the customers that look, I don't want them to call me. No, I want to engage to the right level. So you need a solution that's this simple, and the microserver platform lets us actually do that.
Yeah. On the hosted email, is one of the things we're doing that's actually pretty interesting. Is that we had monitored BPOS before, but with Office 365, they've got PowerShell scripts. And so with our scripting engine, we can actually monitor Office 365. So when you install it, you sell Office 365, on your dashboard, you've got all the performance, and you can even have scripts to push out deployments and all this type of thing, all from the dashboard. So you can actually manage Office 365 as though it's local infrastructure on the microserver, running SBS Essentials. So it really pulls the cloud completely into the picture for the managed service provider. So that's going to be very cool.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, the things that we're doing, because I think all of us play, or kind of unusual in some ways, that we play down small and that we also play up big. So we're from very small partners or people that are maybe just starting to even become partners. I see this as an interesting thing for, the trunk slammers of the world that are starting to say, hey, I want to become a real business, and this is a product that I can start to deploy. But then you start scaling up and you look at where we're all looking and where you're going and where you live. But the virtualization space, and HP has amazing hardware for that, and you guys manage that amazingly well. What are some of the trends that you're seeing that are coming in that virtualization space? What are some of the things that you think are going to be real drivers of economy for the mid-market kind of clients that we all?
Sure. I mean, the mid-market's a really good example. I mean, virtualization is definitely being aggressively adopted in the mid-market and adopted in core solutions, not just pinpoint solutions. So I think that's definitely the space where, in my new role, I've been tasked to really focus on, what is Hyper-V, what is virtualization, what does private cloud mean for the mid-market, and how do we, aggressively partner with, partners like HP and provide these core solutions, whether they're on-premise, cross-premise, or in the cloud, for that mid-market space. Because I think the economies of scale for the mid-market is huge.
Server consolidation story is
exactly. And the thing is, virtualization is across the entire spectrum, right? So you're talking about mid-market and the kind of core, but it's really central to our strategy as well for the SMB overall in a lot of different ways. I mean, from everything from kind of a bundle of components that go together to get you started if you're making a high availability SAN, the smart bundles things that we have going on, to just embracing it on those smaller and smaller platforms, because it's not always just used to consolidate because I need to consolidate. It's used because it's part of your disaster protection plan, right? One VM running on one little server actually happens because of the type of DR plans that people have in place, right?
Absolutely.
So you come on up from there, and then suddenly you're like, well, okay, I got 2 or 3. Now redundancy is kind of important to me. So let me just take the next step. So there's really a whole spectrum where it's applicable.
Well, I think the other thing that's sort of interesting to note, and I'm going to pull from the keynote a little bit this morning. So they were talking about, as we move from Windows 7 to Windows 8, that they're trying not to increase the hardware requirements. And I think it's important to note that we've seen that trend over the past few releases, that we're stabilizing on hardware requirements. Yet you guys are doing an incredible job of continuing to push on what the hardware capabilities are. So virtualization solves that excess capacity need. And so it makes sense to buy the latest and greatest server because you're going to be able to continue to use it, slice it up into all of the various applications you need as your business grows, because the applications we're putting on it are not necessarily driving at the same speed they used to. I mean, I'm sure we all remember the way it was, is that every time you had a new OS, you had to have new hardware because it was always pushing at the same rate. Well, that's not happening anymore.
Well, but of course, regardless of what the specs were claimed. And so part of the difference is that today the specs actually...
Well, agreed, but that's what I'm saying, is we're getting sophisticated to that point where we can actually use those specs to make decisions, and they aren't outpacing at the level that they were. I mean, it was 1-to-1. You needed to advance hardware to go with new operating systems. That isn't really the case anymore.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And I'm definitely seeing that with SBS 2011.
From 2008 to 2011, we're seeing it from Windows 7 as we project out to Windows 8. I mean, it's the newer trend.
Yeah. Great point. What other things that you saw at the keynote that you think really made an impact on you?
Well, I mean, I thought, certainly we're starting to gear up on another cycle with Windows 8, and that, what we're projecting out in a new interface and a new way of looking at interacting with data. I thought that was compelling. We certainly got a little bit of insight into Microsoft's approach with Skype and what they're doing with Lync, as they actually specifically addressed how that fit into the portfolio and why it was a great acquisition. And of course pending regulatory approval, which was Ballmer's joke from this morning. And we got a realistic positioning on where they're going with Windows Phone. I thought that was also a very realistic set of expectations of where their position is in the market and their goals for 2015. I mean, they actually laid out where they wanted to be market space-wise and the projections that the industry sees for that. And it's aggressive, and it's a good set of realistic goals that I think they're going to push toward.
It's a great time to be a partner. We're here at the partner conference, but I definitely see a lot of things happening in the partner space that are really great. I mean, we had some pain, no question. The Vista days was and certainly from a PR perspective, was a huge amount of pain. But now we've got these solid products, and we've got partners that are really solid because they've survived the Great Recession, and now they're ready to really start to grow their businesses.
Well, it's always an exciting time when you come out, as things are recovering, because that's when innovation really starts to happen. People are doing more with less, but they're driving forth to grow the marketplace. And I think this is an exciting time to be in business.
For sure, and I think we're getting a new breed of partners as well with the cloud models, and especially around the SBS space. We're seeing partners now that are, where we've traditionally been focused on deployment and break fix, that are now looking at greater annuity services in that cloud-enabled services. How do they take an SBS Essentials box, which is a fairly easy install, even though you might have an existing infrastructure with a couple of XP machines around, which might take you a few hours to configure even some Macs
and manage them all.
Right? Exactly right. So there's that opportunity. There's the opportunity of upgrade and of course cross-grade, but then. They've got this now great ability of annuity around these managed services. Level Platforms is a great example of that, and also Office 365. But also outside of that, SBS Essentials is a great platform for any cloud-enabled service. So if they've decided to go hosted Exchange, hosted SharePoint, third-party application, through LOB, it gives them the ability to resell that. And we're seeing a lot of interest in how do I approach my customer and drop a box in and say, for $20 a user a month, I'm going to give you A, B, C, D, and E, with managed services, anti-malware, cloud backup, hosted Exchange. and that's all you pay. And then you've got this little piece of hardware that runs this on-premise, and we're starting to see a lot of those models happen in partners' minds now. So it's a really exciting space to be in, the small business space at the moment.
So what about you, Peter? I mean, what do you see as some of the things that are really driving partner growth and where you see the market going? Because you've always been a great thinker. I remember the very first time I met you in Denver, I think it was.
Well, I think we're moving away. I really look at it like the death of the client-server computing model for the last 20 years and into the network computing model of the future, and it's going to be very different. So we have this whole proliferation of mobile devices, and all the things that Steve Ballmer was talking about. We've got, so it's mobility and it's cloud, and that shakes up all of the, certainly from a management point of view, it was managing servers and PCs and basic networking, and now it's managing all the IT environment with all those different devices that are connected in different ways, with data that's getting connected real time from different servers around the world and pulled together. And so to my mind, for a services company, it's like client server computing all over again. If you look at where things were in 1990, people just started to network things, and there was no business, there were no distributors, no VARs, nothing. So now we have $1 trillion industry 20 years later, and now we just added a whole nother layer of complexity, because now all these applications, thinking getting two PCs and a server to work together, and maybe make a printer work off on the side, and now you've got applications drawing data down real time, connecting data from servers that are on premise into something in the cloud, and pulling it down into all real time with web services, and so the points of failure are just like this, and it doesn't mean it's not going to be better. I mean, it's better, but it's going to be points of failure are going to be higher, and the opportunity for a managed service provider is going to be tremendous, because an end customer will have no idea when something isn't working,
and why,
and especially why, and the service provider will be able to play that role and say, I sold you this product, this cloud product, and I said it was going to work like this. It's not working. Well, the question is, why is it not working? Well, we all know from the cloud guys that the cloud never breaks. So, but you want to keep your eye on it anyway, just in case. But you want to be able to figure out all the pieces, all the pieces that could break, and so you can be on top of it. And even if it isn't a Microsoft problem, instead of an end customer saying, calling, I'll say, not Microsoft, calling the cloud help desk, well, did you clear your temporary files? Did you do this? Did you do that? Well, come on, an end customer has no time for that. My email's not working. They want to be able to go to a managed service provider or the Microsoft partner and say, my email's not working, or even better, the service provider calls up and says, by the way, I know you're having some delays in your email. Here's what it is. Here's what I'm doing about it. Relax. Everything's under control. And by the way, here's we got this workaround for you that'll work in the meantime. And so just look after the customers, because they have no way of ever doing it themselves anymore. So they're going to rely on the partner for service, and the service partner needs to be able to move away from their old client-server paradigm into a model where there's lots of stuff going on, and a lot of things can break, and you got to get on top of it all. And that's so from our role, we're trying to create a platform to do that, but it's a lot of work to do that, and a lot of opportunity for the service providers.
I think it was interesting, the consumerization of IT that we also saw today. I mean, Steve Ballmer talked a lot about, not only about the business products, but he spent some considerable time talking about Bing and the ability to write applications on top of it, and he also spent some considerable time on Connect. And I mean, not only talking about the consumer product, but the demand for an SDK and for business applications of these consumer products. And we think about our phones, we think about tablets and all these additional pieces. We're seeing, as partners, we have to bring in these consumer technologies into our fold as well. I mean, I didn't think Skype. Yeah. I didn't think I would be talking about Bing and Xbox as things that I had to figure out in my practice, but it's becoming part of what we have to do. So I think that's another interesting trend to be watching.
Well, great time to be a partner. I wanted to get final thoughts from everybody before we wrap things up today. So, Peter, what are some final thoughts from you?
Well, we're heading into a whole new world, and I think a lot of the things that people thought about before in their business, they really have to get that out of their mind and start thinking about the future and where that's going and lead it. Because the fact is, if you look at the, I'll say 120,000 solution providers around the world, there are, like any big transition, a bunch of people aren't going to get it and they're going to fade away. And that means for the people who do get it, there's an opportunity to grow a lot faster and grab market share. And and by delivering delivering the value that the customers need today, not what they needed last year. And I see some people making that shift, a lot of people making that shift, but a lot aren't, and they're going to drop. It's like every other big transition. If you don't grab it and just take what's good out of it and build your business with it, then that's how you win. And so many people die out that just don't make that transition. And we're there right now.
What about you, Greg?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think everybody's going to have to get a lot more creative in breaking that mold. I mean, just some of the things, like we were talking about earlier. Again, there's just, whether the VAR has to reach to a new segment of customer because of the transformation, whether the vendor has to create a new type of product, whether it's a box, whether it's a bit of software that works differently. I mean, everything is just got to look in more directions than it did before. It's no longer a cookie cutter. I mean, whether it's companies or whether it's within a company, I mean, those that are just repeating the patterns are not the ones that are going to be successful. So,
what about you, Michael?
So mine's all about the ecosystem, right? I mean, the biggest thing for SBS Essentials to be successful is ecosystem, because in itself, it's a great on-premise solution, but with the ecosystem, it really, really shines. And so, what I want is these ISVs to embrace this new solution, work with the VAPs and VARs to help them make them more profitable, to take a word out of your mouth. And really start, and we're starting to see that. We're starting to see the ecosystem of SBS Essentials now, and I'm sure, when we sit down in WPC next year, we'll be showcasing, the hundreds of hopeful, ecosystem solutions built around SBS Essentials, for sure.
What is you, Dave?
Well, mine is, and so it is an incredibly exciting time to be doing what we're doing. We're all in technology and technologists, partly because we enjoy the change, the excitement, the new opportunity. Really, that is what we drive for. What I think is, the reason I focus always on the profitability joke is because the fundamentals of business don't change. No matter how much the technologies change, you need to run a business that's focused on, the basic formula: income minus COGS minus expenses equals profit. That little formula has not changed. So the trick is taking the new technologies and finding ways to put that into your business model and to make it profitable at the bottom. That's the exciting part. That's where you get to design as a business owner. You get to design that piece. So there's so much change out there. There's so many new ways of doing it. So many opportunities, and that's the challenge: is figuring that, mapping that back to the basic formula to build a good business.
Just my final thoughts are just hearing this, all of these products and all of these solutions and people working together. I just see a huge opportunity for small business, because the small businesses are receiving the benefits of business advisors that are going to help them not just look at the texts and the bits and the bytes, but also the helping their business. And then they're going to start to realize the consumerization. They're going to see all of those advantages coming their way. And so just the trends that we're seeing for small businesses to out-innovate large businesses are huge. They've got great opportunity to seize the best of the new things that are coming, grab those, and then run with them. It's interesting. We are now acting. We've moved. I was VAR, and in this last year, just totally focused on video, and we're using all these technologies to help our business innovate. And it's amazing. It's amazing times. It's great times to be using tech. That's for sure. All right. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for my great guest today, and really appreciate it. There is another webcast coming up at 5 o'clock on MPN. You'll also find it on Varvid.tv and our Facebook channel. And then we'll be webcasting every day at 3 o'clock throughout WPC and 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock on the MPN channel. So thanks for watching today, and we're looking forward to hitting things later. All right, see you later. Adios.
Thanks.